You're listening to the Batuta Advocate's weekly news wrap on Desert Rock FM 96.5.
Welcome back to the Batuta Advocate Weekly News Bulletin. You're joined today by just myself, Clancy Overall, editor of the Batuta Advocate, and of course our newsreader cadet, Wendell Hussey. How are you, Wendell?
Very well, thank you, Clancy. Where's Errol today?
Errol is not with us. He's got something going on with that daughter of his that he doesn't talk about that often, from when he was in the army.
Oh, yeah, right.
She's graduating up there in Townsville, so
he's gone up there again, has he?
Yeah, he's had to go up there. So
hopefully we see him soon.
Yeah, all the best to him, and all the best to Michaelia. Now, what's in the news today, Wendell?
Well, we'll start off with one of our big national stories from this week, and that was in regards to the budget. The Prime Minister has said, and I quote, $19 billion for private schools ensures Australia has a steady supply of mediocre politicians.
Yes, we had the budget this week, which drew the ire of a lot of people who criticised the way it was divvied up, with plenty saying it was bad news for women and mothers in particular. But Scott Morrison has defended it, saying he's given out a budget that works for his base and works for the Australian people, who he believes are his base.
Yeah, he said that the funding was necessary because, and I quote again here, we need to make sure there's always politicians like Tony Abbott, Malcolm Turnbull and Barnaby Joyce there to see Australia in the right direction. Does seem like quite a bit of money to achieve that, though.
Let's not forget Bill Shorten and every single member of Young Labor. But yes, you are right.
And Scott Francis left a comment on that story pointing out, without these schools, who would we have to spit on homeless people?
Well, opposition leader Anthony Albanese gave a stirring budget reply that really drew a line in the sand on equality and plotted an alternative path forward for our country.
Yeah, he promised to up the childcare rebate from 85% to 90% for families earning less than a couple $100,000, I think. And I think he also mentioned something about funding to facilitate the transfer to renewables or something like that.
Bold and inspiring, as always, by Albo. Great to know our future is in safe hands.
And there was another controversial education story from the national sector this week. The headline on that one was, bloke who studied economic geography at university says we need to focus on relevant degrees.
That's right, of course. We are talking about Scott Morrison, the UTS alumni, University of Technology in Sydney, I believe that is. Yes, who has himself put forward the changes to higher education, which have passed the Senate, with humanity degrees in particular doubling in price, because Scotty from marketing, the man who did, in fact, as we mentioned, study economic geography, and Dan Tehan, who studied arts, believe we need to focus on relevant degrees.
Yeah, given the much publicised woes of the university sector in its relentless pursuit for profits, Tehan and Morrison said that rather than overhaul the entire sector, they're hoping to fix it by simply just doubling the cost of humanities degrees.
That should do it. We all know that awkward teenagers who want to study art are a cash cow.
And another national story this week we wrote in regards to the potential for future outbreaks, and the headline on that one was, "Day for it," says coronavirus staring at a packed beach.
Yes, a COVID-19 particle was spotted licking its lips as it prepared to walk onto a crowded beach in our entitlement belts of Bondi and, of course, an hour at a time down there in Victoria. The virus apparently made sure to slip, slop, slap before heading out there to soak up the sun and spread the love.
I understand that this shit happens at Bondi and Coogee and on the Goldie and places like that, but why are people so set on getting out onto the glorified sandpit that is St Kilda Beach, Clancy?
I think it's just because Melbournese people can't handle having something that's shitter than the rest of the country, so they have to pretend to enjoy it.
There you go. In some international news now, David Attenborough has changed his tune on fossil fuels after learning Australia's recovery depends on gas. Now, David has been on a real crusade before this, releasing a new Netflix doco and joining Instagram to try and convince people of the world that we need to do something about climate change quite urgently. But that's all changed now.
Yes, he's obviously realised that our COVID recovery task force in Australia, which is just a bunch of gas lobbyists, has told the government that gas is the way of the future. So after hearing that, he's dropped it for now. Fossil fuels aren't too bad. Maybe he'll try again and convince us otherwise when things are sorted economically over here, of course.
Should just be in a couple of years' time. And our last story of the week comes from town, with a Year 12 student becoming the first person in the family to experience stress.
Yes, exams are gearing up right around the country, and it means an entire year of school kids are becoming the first people to ever experience a little bit of pressure.
I understand it's pretty tough, but I mean, You have to put it into perspective, I think. It's not the be-all and end-all, this mark that you get at the end of school. You can do what I did, get a red dot, take a couple of years off, do a bit of labouring, go on a trip, then you just wait till you're 21 and you're straight into uni.
Straight into a 50 grand communications degree.
Exactly. And there was a comment on that story from Ben Gallard, who obviously wants people to harden up a little bit. He said 70 years ago, 17-year-olds were on the other side of the world trying not to get bayoneted in the guts by a Japanese soldier. I really hope she gets a lot of likes on Instagram to offset the pain of her exams.
Yes, Ben, good stuff there, mate. Great commentary and great contribution. Of course, that's what the kids need. They need to be sent to Japan to try and not die. That'll fix them. Good stuff.
Yeah, you might not know this, Ben Gallard, but you're also a pretty high chance of getting a bayonet to the stomach in your local Westfields car park, I reckon.
Yes, particularly down there in South Batuta, of course.
Alrighty, well, that is all I've got here in front of me, so that'll do us for another week in news. We'll be back again at the same time next week, hopefully with Errol Parker if he's back from Townsville, to bring you all of the biggest stories. Until then, kia ora.
Hooroo.